Good morning and welcome to the CRM for Sales Account Management webinar. This is the second in the series of webinars we've been running on CRM for Sales. And this presentation today is very much focused on account management and how to leverage CRM to drive your account management sales processes. I'd like to say this webinar will be recorded and we will provide a link to the recording at the end of the session, so you will all receive that in email after the event today. So we're really going to talk about three topics. The first one is the importance of customer success and how your account management strategy links into that. The second one is then looking at proactive account management, how we can move from a reactive account management model into very much a proactive model. And then thirdly, we're going to talk about actionable insight. So how to use data inside your CRM platform to proactively drive your account management processes and hopefully uncover some hidden gems inside your CRM system. So let's start by talking about the difference between hunters and farmers. So this is the second webinar series we've run. The first one was very much focused on new business, and that would be typically how you describe new business salespeople, hunters. And that webinar was focused on things like deal execution, pipeline metrics, understanding how to close new sales. Whilst all those skills are also relevant to the account management teams, account managers are much more focused on relationship building, cultivating leads and clients, and so this webinar really is focused on those topic areas exclusively. If you are running an account management team, I would recommend you go back and visit that webinar. It is recorded. You can access it from our website, because it is part of the puzzle for delivering successful account management. But today's topic area really is focused much more on proactive account management. So one of the key strategies for any account management organization has got to be to have happy clients. We all know that it's much easier to sell more things or cross-sell into an existing account base if your customers are generally happy. And therefore we can't look at account management in sales in isolation. We've got to look at it as a broader customer success strategy and account management strategy to ensure that our customers aren't angry red, but they really are happy green. And if we can achieve that, then it's much easier for us to drive sales and marketing initiatives into that account base to upsell and cross-sell new products or expand the accounts into different areas. So with that in mind, it's worth talking about the three pillars that I think underpins customer value. So the first one of those is around customer services. So that's how you deal with inbound inquiries from your clients, be those customer complaints, concerns or issues, product returns, the process of managing inbound issues and how you respond to those. Now we all know that if you phone up an organization and you get poor customer service, that colors your view of that organization and you're inclined to spend less money with them. So making sure that you've got a good customer services infrastructure using a CRM tool is key. Now again, we're not focused on that topic area in this webinar, but it is important, I think, to look at that in the round and make sure that you've got a good customer services desk and that you've got the tools and technologies to underpin that. And clearly, Workbooks and other CRM products can help you deliver that. So if you're not already using CRM today for managing your inbound customer inquiries, you absolutely should be, and broadening out your customer services and account management processes to ensure they incorporate that aspect. What we're really talking about today, though, is what I would describe as proactive account management. So making sure that we've got the right sort of tools, systems and processes in place, not to just respond to customers, but to be proactively managing them in the right way. And if we can do that effectively, that will drive our upsell and cross-sell. It will allow us to target and market and sell more effectively to our current customers. So let's really talk about how do we achieve that? What sort of tools do we need in place? It's worth looking at where your organization is today from an account maturity perspective. You know, how effective are you at managing your current customers? Are you on the left-hand side of this chart where actually you're trying to breathe life back into your customer base because they're not very responsive, they're not very engaged with you? Or are you just firefighting, dealing with customer issues as they arise, dealing with problems? Or are you more towards the right-hand side where you've got a proactive account management strategy in place? And clearly the objective of a proactive account management strategy is to identify issues before they become problems, making sure that you've got the processes in place to spot concerns from customers or problems or infrastructure issues. And if we can do much more effective proactive customer management, then that allows us to drive much more value from our customers, because they'll be happier, they'll be more engaged with us, and they'll be willing to spend more money with us, or at the very least they'll be willing to continue to spend the same amount of money with us they do today, so renewing their current agreements with you. So I would start by taking a step back, having a look at your organisation, you have a sense of where you feel you sit today on this maturity chart. Are you more towards the left, or are you more towards the right? And if you're more towards the left, then hopefully this webinar today will give you some insight into the things you can do to move more towards the right hand side of the screen. So let's start by talking about an account management framework, and this I think is a core component of any account management strategy. So you have firstly to define how best to manage your customers. Now, we clearly all like to treat our customers well, but if you've got 1,000 customers and you've got 5 account managers, it's unlikely you're going to be able to provide the same level of excellent service to all of those clients. So you need to balance your resources and investment versus the risk and reward. And a part of any good account management framework is helping you decide as an account manager whether to go left or right out of bed in the morning. So which areas should you be focused on? So we'll talk a bit more about how we do that as we go through this presentation. You also need a common language, I think, across your organisation. So if you're talking about a tier 1 customer, everybody in the organisation knows what that means, what kind of emphasis we should be putting on tier 1 accounts. If we're talking about a customer that is at risk, then again, everybody in the organisation understands what that means and how best to engage and interact with that client. So a good account management framework will allow you to define how best to manage your customers, but also give you a common language across the organisation. And alongside that, you need best practice. So you should be thinking about and defining how you want to manage your customers, what kind of proactive processes you need to ensure that you're adopting best practice across your account management organisation. So if you know from experience that the most effective way to engage your tier 1 accounts is to actually go on site, meet with them, book a meeting with the leadership team there, and that works well for you, then you should be adopting that same practice across all of your tier 1 accounts and making sure that your account management team are adopting and following that best practice, whether they're experienced salespeople or whether they're new to your organisation and getting a feel for the way the processes should run. If you define them and document them, you can much more effectively train and implement those account management processes within your account teams. And then lastly, as we should be doing all the time in CRM, we should be looking to measure and improve what we can across our processes. So again, any good account management framework will also be defining the key KPIs to ensure that you really are delivering your account management processes in the way that you should be, and if not, work out how you improve and change those processes. So let's talk firstly about what I think is the fundamental aspect of any account management strategy, and that is profiling your customers. So what do I mean by that? Well, as I mentioned before, you've got a limited amount of resources to invest in your account base, and you want to make sure that those resources are invested in the most effective areas for your business. So you want to consider how you profile your customers, and the most common way of doing that is using some kind of tiering mechanism. So think about tiering your customers into different bands, and based on the different bands you might interact or proactively manage those customers in a different way. So again, it's worth stating that we want to provide good customer account management to all of our clients, but clearly there are some organisations where you're going to want to invest more effort because you believe there's more reward available for those accounts. So in this example, I would suggest you consider tiering them with at least 2 metrics. It could be more, but you could start with 2. Firstly, what do they currently spend with you? What's their current annual spend? But also, what's their potential spend in the future? What could they be spending with you? And those two data points are probably the 2 most important to start with. And if you look at the example tiering I've got on the screen here, we're saying that customer A and customer B both fall into our tier 1 account management strategy. but customer B is only spending £100,000 a year with us, whereas customer A is spending £1 million a year with us, and actually customer B is spending less than customer C. So why have I put customer B in tier 1? Well, that's because they have the potential to be spending £5 million a year with us. So from an account management perspective, I want to be investing much more effort in extending the footprint of our engagement with customer B to really look at leveraging how I get to that other £4.9 million of revenue that I'm not currently getting out of that account. So from an account management perspective, I want to look after customer C well, absolutely, but I want to invest more in extending our reach into customer B. So you could look at many different ways for profiling your customers. It could be based on potential spend by product line, by geography, whatever makes most sense for your business. But if you can put your customers into buckets, into tiers, then you can begin to think about how you adapt your customer account management strategy and focus the right effort in the right places, recognizing that, again, there should be a common high level of customer service across your entire customer base. So alongside tiering those clients, then we also want to think about profiling them in other ways. So again, this is, I would say, typical CRM activity, but it's surprising how infrequently this is done well in account management teams. We really want to profile our customers by things like industry, prospective spend, but also areas of future interest. So in this example, this is a screenshot from a Workbooks implementation. We can see this prospective customer, or this customer, currently spending about £20,000 a year with us, but we could be spending £50,000, we believe. They're currently buying widgets. They could buy sprockets and they could buy software, but they've got no interest in our infrastructure technology. But that does mean that I can begin to align my sales and marketing strategies with these sorts of organizations. So I really want my marketing team to be working alongside me to build marketing strategies to develop opportunities in these accounts for software and for sprockets, because I know that this organization has the potential to buy them, and I know they're not spending money with us on those product areas. So your account management team really should be out there talking to your prospects, talking to your customers and profiling them so that they can bring that information back into the organization and help your marketing teams and your new business teams drive campaigns into those customer bases for upsell and cross-sell opportunity. That is absolutely part of the account management role in our view. Now, you could also get quite sophisticated with these processes. So you might want to consider, for example, doing things like exception reporting. If you're a Workbooks customer, we'll have talked to you about that in the past. That's identifying, for example, which of your tier 1 accounts haven't been profiled. So you could take these screens here and say, I want to report on all of our tier 1 and 2 customers where we don't know the answers to widgets, sprockets, software and infrastructure. And that could then drive your account management strategy to make sure your account managers are collecting that kind of information from their customers when they're meeting with them. So we've now profiled our accounts, we put them into tiers. We now need to decide how we're going to proactively manage those accounts. And so here's an example of how we might approach that. We know from experience that doing account planning with our customers together on how we can provide more value is a worthwhile exercise. But it's a high cost exercise, so it means it's going on site, maybe bringing leadership people involved. Those are high cost events to organize. So we're going to run those only with our tier 1 and tier 2 accounts. So we're going to do account planning with tier 1 and tier 2. But we're also going to run customer success calls or meetings with all of our customers. But we're going to do those for tier 1 and tier 2 accounts monthly. So every month we're going to proactively pick up the phone or organize a meeting with the right people in that organization, touch base with them, test the temperature, make sure they're happy, talk about how the relationship's developing, talk about what other opportunities might be available. But we're only going to do that quarterly and annually for tier 3 and tier 4 accounts. So what I've now done is relatively simply defined how I want to be managing my customer base. So I've tiered them, I've got a proactive account management process in place with account planning and customer success, and I could clearly extend this to include things like running regular surveys or other engagement activities. But the point here is that what you're doing is you're planning how you are going to be proactively managing your accounts. And once you've done that, once you've defined how you'd like to run your accounts, you can begin to implement that inside CRM. So clearly, what you want to do is embed those account management processes inside your CRM platform so you can ensure best practice, making sure it's actually being done by your account management team, and particularly if you've got a team of 30 or 40 people, it's difficult to be on top of all the individuals. So we need to have some systems and processes that ensure we're proactively managing those accounts. We can spot issues or problems, and we can ensure that CRM is much more tailored to those account management teams. So we'd absolutely recommend that you tailor Workbooks or whatever CRM tool you're using to make it easy for your account management teams to get the information that they need. And that's often different information than your new business teams need. So an account manager is going to be much more interested in previous spend, open cases, for example, any customer issues that are outstanding. It's important to make it easy for the account managers to get that information to improve your adoption and ensure you're really getting back value from your CRM investment. And my advice would be, if you don't have today a proactive account management process and you're going to use Workbooks for implementing one of those, don't overcomplicate it in phase one. Start simply, get it adopted, make sure the adoption's high, and then look to improve and change it. CRM is always a journey. And you want to start simply here and build from that base foundation that works well for you. So here are two examples of dashboards that we use inside our own organization. This first one is customer care calls for the month. So as I mentioned, if you're a client of ours, you'll have been on the end of this process with us. We pick up the phone regularly to customers to make sure that they're happy. And here we have a report of all the customer care calls that are due to take place. So we've got 112 in the period, and I can see at a glance that we've done 46 of them. 12 are in progress, 9 are booked, and 45 haven't yet been started. So we're kind of on track for delivering our customer care obligations. And again, I could further break that down by account manager or region and see whether there are any specific issues in the team as individuals. But again, it's also important to customize it from a account management perspective. So here, for example, this is a layout inside our database. We have customer care calls as a different activity type. So that makes it very easy for us to have a tab which brings to the front all the customer care calls that have taken place into that account. And as you can see here, those have been done by different people. So Jean did the early calls and Mark more recently has done these calls. So Mark, when he picks up the phone and he sees his activity for this account, he can very quickly go into the customer care record, look at the previous notes and activities that went on in that account, and we can see at a glance here that in all the last calls that we've done, the customers have been very happy with the level of satisfaction. That's great. But it means that it makes that process much easier for the account manager. They feel like they're getting real value. So when they're picking up the phone, they've got some idea of how that conversation is going to go. And when it's all green, it's all good. But actually where that adds real value is where the customer isn't that happy, and we can make sure we approach the call in the right way. So hopefully that provides some insight into proactive account management. Let's talk about managing risk. So we all want happy customers, but we all know they aren't always happy all of the time. And when they're on the left-hand side of this chart, angry red, generally, if we can acknowledge their issues, empathize with their problems, and put in place an action plan and a resolution plan, we can move them away from being unhappy into green, nice and happy. But I think a key tenet of any good customer success strategy, of which account management is clearly part, is having an understood process inside your organization for managing this issue. So customers at risk. So I would strongly recommend, in fact, you implement a company-wide unhappy customer process. Call it what you will, but a mechanism whereby the organization as a whole knows how to deal with customers that are angry red and not happy green. Empower your staff to put any customer at risk. It's a really powerful mechanism. If you say to your staff, look, if you think any of our customers are unhappy, if they can easily raise a flag, maybe change a status on a CRM record, and they know that issue is going to get picked up and resolved proactively, rather than sending an email to their manager who might get round to dealing with the problem, or it might not understand the importance of the account because they don't know that's a tier 1 account. If you can empower your staff to put any customer at risk, then that's a really powerful customer service message, customer success message that your staff will get, but also your customers will really benefit from. So we'd recommend making it simple. It can be a simple drop down on a screen, customers now red, amber or green. Train all your staff how to deal with that, and sales and customer services staff generally good at dealing with those sorts of issues, but I would make sure that that knowledge is spread throughout the organization. So for example, your marketing team absolutely do not want to be sending mail shots out to your unhappy customers about how great our new range of products are. That's just going to irritate customers even more when not only are they unhappy, you're trying to sell them more stuff over via email or via an event. So, simple example there, marketing can exclude all of the amber or red customers from their marketing campaigns and make sure that they're not inflaming the situation rather than improving the situation. Again, I'd recommend the same with finance. Nothing more irritating if you're a client than having some aggressive finance person on the phone trying to get payment for an invoice where you just told your account manager you're not prepared to pay for it because you're not happy with the product or service that was involved. So joining all that stuff up can make a tremendous difference to the way that your customers perceive you, and that will hopefully help you turn them or ensure they're more green than red, generally speaking. So you can use simple case records for this or activity records for this, but again, I'd recommend that you implement a process of allowing people to flag organizations at risk or customers at risk, and make sure that you've got the management processes internally to follow through on that and make sure they get closed down in the right way. So whether that's cases or activities, implement them, report on them, measure them, improve them, make sure that you are really following through on that customer success strategy and turning them from red to green. So we've touched on, in the first half of that, how you can hopefully build some proactive account management processes to, rather than react to customer issues, drive the agenda and then drive value in your customer base. Now we're going to talk much more about what I describe as actionable insight. So what do I mean by that? So I mean using information inside your CRM system to identify customers who need more attention, uncover opportunities for more sales, and proactively manage your customer base. And if we can extract that insight from CRM, we can build workflows and business processes that will underpin that insight and hopefully drive more revenues and more happy clients. So what do I mean? Well, let's talk about some examples. So let's talk about changing in buying behavior. So if we bring order and invoice data into CRM, we can begin to look at changing in buying patterns. So are people changing what they're buying from you over a period? So in this simple example here, we are reporting on invoice data by period. In this case it's month, but it could be quarter or 6 months or year, whatever makes sense for your business. And all of a sudden I can see actually 4 of my customers have decreased their spend with me in the last month. And if I'm a very transaction-led business and I expect customers to be buying off me regularly, then that might be an early sign of concern. 3 of them have completely stopped buying, and 1 of them has decreased their spend. So at this point I might want to think about doing something about those customers to understand whether they are not buying from us this month because their business has changed, it's just slowed down for them, or actually has some other supplier got hold of them and convinced them that they're a better widget supplier than we are, and they're now testing widgets from that organization. It's incredibly powerful for account management teams to identify changing in buying behavior and use that information to either go back and re-engage those accounts or work out what's going on, or if they're buying more things from you, maybe we should be more engaged in that organization and look at whether opportunities exist for the business. So by analyzing the data that you've got in CRM, we can build workflows, alerts, drive Salesforce behavior, account management behavior to really proactively manage those accounts rather than wait until the next account review in 12 months time if that's the tier 4 customer, and then realize they stopped buying from us, and they actually stopped buying from us 9 months ago, and therefore it's much more difficult to bring them back as a customer because they're now already embedded with a different supplier. So yeah, that's a good example of where we can get actionable insight from our buying behavior. Now, we can use that same approach to uncover more opportunities for our business. So we talked earlier about how we should be profiling our customer base, understanding what potential they have from us. So here we know that this organization has the potential to buy software from us. They may be buying it from somebody else. But I can see from their sales history, again using the invoice data coming out of Workbooks, that they absolutely aren't buying software. So if I'm a great marketeer and I'm marketing to my customer base, I absolutely want to know which of my customers have the potential to buy software from us that currently aren't buying any software from us, and I want to drive a marketing campaign out to that base, maybe with an offer, an incentive to get them on the hook buying their first set of software from us. Maybe going to run some discount promotions or something, and then I want my account management team following that information up. So using the data that's available to us in CRM can really drive risk management, but also upsell opportunities within the account management base. And we can also link that directly to our online web presence. So again, I touched on this briefly in the new business presentation that I ran 3 weeks ago, but the same principles apply for account management teams. Using Workbooks now, we can bring into your CRM platform real-time data on which of your customers are on your website now and what pages they're looking at. And I can use the Insights technology, it's a new product that we're just launching, to categorize different types of web pages in different ways. So back to that example, if I've got a whole bunch of software content on my website, and I absolutely can see that this organization was looking at the software pages of my website, then I can use that information to create a new opportunity and drive sales engagement, account management engagement into that account base. So we really want to bring together the insight from the digital footprint of your customers, and that's particularly powerful, for example, if you've got any kind of portal technology on your website, because we can connect your portal into this infrastructure and we can see the individuals, not only the organizations that are on the website and what pages they're looking at, and use that information to drive your sales processes. So you can see here we can link that not only to profiling data inside Workbooks, but also existing pipeline data. So if I'm an account manager and I can see that Global Marine were on the website over the last few days looking at the relevant pages, I can maybe pick up the phone. Or if one of my customers had been speaking to us about software a year ago and haven't been re-engaged with us recently, I can see actually Timco here are back on the website again looking at that kind of content. So I might want to re-engage that account, pick up the phone, find out what's going on, and see whether I can extend some sales in there. So the other area I'm going to talk about is risk management, so how we use actionable insight to help improve the risk management of our accounts. And again, this is something we do pretty extensively here at Workbooks. But the concept here is to use the data, use the insights that you have inside CRM to drive your risk management process and build up a profile of organizations that you think may be at risk. So previously, we were talking about your staff color coding your customers. You know, I know this organization is unhappy because I've just come off the phone with them and I'm going to turn them red or amber and raise the flag inside the organization. But the problem with customers is they don't always tell you that they're unhappy. And so how do you deal with those organizations that are drifting away from you, but you don't really know because you've not picked up the phone to them recently or they're not engaging with you? So if we can identify attributes that would be indicative of that fact, and we can bring those attributes into CRM, then we can use that information to drive out risk. So some examples of that would be if you're transactionally based, a lack of quotes maybe, a lack of orders coming through the system, lack of inquiries from those customers. If you're recording all that detail in CRM, and we can see that Acme Corporation, last quarter were asking us for 15 quotes a month, and this quarter they're not asking us for any, that's an indication that they may have been drifting away from us. Or if you're a technology company or you've got some ability to bring data from your products and services into CRM, then we can use that information as well to drive risk management. So for example, this is a screenshot from our own database, but hopefully it explains how we do some of these things inside Workbooks. So we know, for example, how many licenses of Workbooks you purchased, and we can track how frequently you're logging into our database. So in this example, you'll see here that in the last 90 days, 115 people from this particular client have logged into their database. They've got 121 purchase license. That's a pretty good ratio. 90% of their users are logging in pretty regularly, and that would give us no cause for concern. However, if they had 10 users logging in and they'd bought 121 licenses, that would give us real cause for concern. So we can use that data inside CRM for us to begin to manage risk. So in that example, their login points are low. They score a 0 because they're logging in well. However, the customer care points are 100. That means we've not had a customer care call with this account recently, so we haven't been able to get hold of them. Therefore, we're scoring them high. And we're using different attributes across Workbooks to understand the risk associated with that account. So executive sponsor points, we have a good engagement with your exec sponsors, and therefore we're scoring that low. And we're using an amalgam of all this information together in one place to come up with a score, 370 in this case. And for us, if you score more than 500, then we would put you probably into an at-risk process. We would at the very least review your account and decide whether we should be putting you into our at-risk process or not. So if you are able to bring data into CRM or use information about recent activities, recent orders, recent quotes, for example, to proactively look at your customer base and identify those organizations that might be more at risk than you realized because their behavior is different, we can use that information to help you build a risk management process that's much more proactive than just relying on speaking to customers over the phone. So hopefully that all provides some value around risk management. And the last area I think to talk about is renewals. So again, if you are any kind of subscription business, whether it's support contracts, membership fees, maintenance agreements, you absolutely should be driving renewals from CRM. And where that becomes really powerful is where we're linking that with some of the other concepts that we've been talking about today. So I can link my customer renewals to my color coding. So I absolutely want to be worrying about those renewals that are amber and red, particularly when they're just coming up for renewal, or ideally, in truth, you want to be worrying about them 6 months before renewal, and put more emphasis onto that process from a renewals perspective, maybe taking some more senior management, whatever makes sense for your organization. But and if I look at February's data, I can see I've got a bigger renewals month in February, but of that customer base, one of my accounts is red, Westland Business Services. So I want to make sure that we're on top of that. The account manager, I want to make sure that he's on top of that account, doing everything that we can to ensure that Westland renews and we move them off red and green. So renewals is a cornerstone of any decent CRM platform. I know many of our customers use Workbooks to manage their renewal processes, but if you can link that renewals processes with some of the other insight that you've got in CRM, then hopefully you can improve your renewal rates and ensure that you're getting as much revenue from your current customer base as you can. So that's taken me about 35 minutes, which is pretty much on time for me, but hopefully what you can see is we've covered a couple of key areas. So really the importance of an account management process, a proactive account management process, which is all about profiling your customers, deciding how much investment you want to make in the different sorts of organizations you deal with, proactively manage them, so make sure you've got a process that you've defined, you're happy with, that you then implement and execute in CRM. And if you do that, then you will have just happier customers and a better ability to drive more revenue through those. That coupled with an at-risk process and then the continuous process of measuring and improving what you do will absolutely grow your revenues from customer account management. And then you also look at, well, okay, as well as being proactive, what insight can I get from my CRM platform? How can I use that insight to proactively manage my customers more effectively, whether that's customer behavioral changes, upselling, renewal management, website integration, proactive risk management, all these sorts of things that are possible with CRM. And hopefully what we've done today is provide you with some ideas of how you can improve your account management processes and drive more revenue from your customers. So thank you all for your time. I will now open up the floor for questions. So if people do have any questions, please just type them into the question bar, and I'll deal with those now. So the first question I've got is, you spoke about lots of things. Where do you recommend we start? So I would start with two things. Firstly, your account management process. What is it going to be? Even if you just start really simply, we are going to do regular account management calls once a quarter. And then I'd also start with your profiling. So it's really those two areas, I think. You're unlikely to be able to invest the same amount of money in all of your customers from a proactive account management perspective. So decide where you're going to get the biggest bang for buck and focus on those. So the second question I've got is, where would you recommend all this profiling data stored in CRM? So we would typically focus that around the organization record if you're a B2B business, or the person record if you're a B2C business. So it's the customer record, whatever the customer record is for you. So profiling tiering, profiling levels of interest, profiling previous purchase history, that can all be based around the organization record. And if you're using Workbooks, then you can use things like reporting cells to bring that information back onto the organization record, even if it's stored in transactional data. So for example, you can write a report that adds up all of the invoices by period, by product type, and bring that back onto the organizational record on the front screen, or how many cases have been raised in the last 6 months, all that kind of stuff. So a question about managing account managers, how best to manage account management teams. So a lot of that we covered in the new business webinar that we ran, which was what sort of reports and dashboards do you need for managing your customer base, managing your account management team. So things like number of meetings, number of phone calls, pipeline, all that was covered in the other webinar. So I definitely recommend that you go back and review that. But in addition to that, you want to measure the specific account management processes that we've talked about. So things like customer care calls, if that's what you're going to call them, or account planning sessions, making sure that they've been done and they've been proactive. So another question, how can you flag inactivity by an account manager in a particular account? Good question. So there's a number of ways you can do that. At a very simple level, you could look at the last updated dates on organization records to see when they were last updated. You'd expect them to be updated fairly regularly, but probably more usefully, it's with the activity records. So, if you think about what we discussed, you'd be expecting a customer care activity record, you might be expecting an account management activity record, you might be expecting a phone call record. So again, CRM doesn't work if you don't have your account managers putting the data in. So things like phone calls, meetings, activities, all that data can be synchronized from Outlook or Google, but it needs to be in CRM, otherwise you can't then report on what's not happening. So I would want to see if this is a tier 1 account and we're expecting a customer care call to take place every month, show me a report of all tier 1 accounts where the customer care calls are either overdue or don't exist at all. That would be a great example of an exception report. We have those here, so we have exception reports that go around that say these are all the organisations that are scheduled to an account customer care call that don't have one or have one that's overdue. And it's not that we've got bad account managers, they're generally all pretty good, but it's easy to forget to create the next follow-up activity if you've come off a phone call or something like that. And so those exception reports just provide a catch mechanism to make sure that, that they're being picked up. Okay, well that's all the questions. So thank you all very much for your time. As I mentioned, we will be sending this webinar out via email, so you'll be able to download it and listen to it in the future. Thank you very much.